Hey, everybody, it's Chris Aiken from the Classic Metal Show and the Aftershocks podcast. And I know you want to see this next episode, but right before we do it, just want to remind you that if you have an Amazon device, whether it's a TV or a Fire Stick or Fire Cube or whatever it would be, a Firebox if you're old school, make sure you add the CMSPN to it. Just look up CMS Podcast Network on your Amazon device, add the channel, and you will get every episode of all 4 shows for free right there on your TV. Make us part of your TV viewing every single day and night, all right? It's the CMS Podcast Network, cmspn.com, and it is now on Amazon. So get it, all right? All right, here's the episode you came to see.
All right. Well, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Aftershocks at AftershocksTV.com on the CMS Podcast Network. And joining us today, we got a longtime veteran in the world of New York hardcore. And he's here to talk to us a bit about his current band, Kings Never Die, who are getting ready to release their new EP titled It's What We Live For. It comes out March 26th on Upstate Records and Blood Blast Distribution. Guitarist Larry the Hunter. Larry, man, thanks so much for coming on. How you doing, bud?
Good, Matt. Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah,
nice to meet you.
Of course. Nice to meet you too, man. So, man, let's talk about Kings Never Die, man. I mean, it's been quite a year for you guys. You released the debut EP, Raise a Glass, shortly before the pandemic hit. I mean, that thing was taking off. I mean, it was gaining such traction, and it was getting so many good reviews amongst the fans and amongst the press. And of course, because of the pandemic, man, you guys were one of those unfortunate bands that put out the record just right before the whole thing hit. So, I mean, obviously, you had all that momentum building and that kind of got put to a halt, but it looks like to me, man, you guys, that momentum never stopped because, I mean, even though you guys couldn't play shows, here you are, you got your new EP coming out and you got a lot of other things in the works that we'll talk about in a minute. But, it's like you guys had that sort of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger approach, it seems like to me, because of this whole thing. So why don't you just go ahead, I guess, and tell us, man, how you guys been able to sort of keep things going and keep that momentum going with all the buzzkill of the pandemic that happened?
Yeah. I think we were in an early phase where we were had a ton of stuff happening anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And normally you can't even get to it in regular life, like
Sure.
You can't get to everything. Like everybody, you're tied up with a family and everything else work.
Sure.
And in a way, we had so much to do as a new band and trying to write stuff and get a catalog going that we just said, well, we're just going to do that. We're going to write and we're going to perfect and write more and come up with stuff and try to get whatever content we can make ourselves out, which the videos are almost base. The one you're going to see on Friday we didn't even have one person with us. It was literally the band filming it, Dan, like this or like this. Not even help.
Wow.
And so you just get it done. And so yeah, we just started to concentrate on that. And then with COVID, of course, Dan lost his father, which was a major thing in his life. And, he had to take some time for that in there. But we didn't stop anything at all. We wrote and we riffed and we passed ideas around and, worked on whatever we could. The thing that was just so disappointing was that everybody, labels and everything were just not even answering phones because everybody's just trying to survive.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So, everybody was worried at that point starts to worry about how they're going to pay the bills because all the festivals are going to be done. All the shows are, not, hey, let's hear this new band. Like,
sure.
So,
yeah,
that wasn't happening at all as nothing was. So we wrote and just kept strategizing in a way. Dan is a consummate hard worker. He has a great work ethic and it's great to be in a band with that. You just have to answer to it.
Sure.
Gotta get it done.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, I mean, you guys obviously got it done, man. And like you just brought up, the track Pure Gold that we're going to, like you said, it comes out this Friday, the 26th of February. I I had the privilege to be able to check out the video, man. It's a cool video. Like you said, it's just a makeshift video you guys did, but I think you guys did a really cool job on it. And like you said, that's really, it's a challenge, obviously, making a video during a pandemic. I mean, it's sort of, how do you do that? You have to do something what you guys did. But I also think what's cool about the video is it kind of goes along with what, the band is about, man. Just that old school hardcore sort of basic, I guess, approach that you guys have to, the band, the music, everything that you got going on with it. So, that track is, I've heard, like I said, I've also had the privilege to listen to the whole EP. It's great. We'll talk about it a little bit here. And Pure Gold is a great tune. One thing I love about not just the tune, but one thing I love about just the record in general, man, really was the mixing and the production that it really, stands out to me on this record. I mean, I know you guys worked with two great guys in the scene, one of the best producers, obviously arguably the best producer in hardcore with Jerry Farley. And of course, you guys also worked with Las Pina from El Nino to work on the EP as well. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about working with, both of those guys and really how crucial it is, to have a team in a situation like that in order really to capture, I guess, the sound, as close of a sound as you can in a live setting as possible, which it's what most bands obviously set out to do when they record.
It's funny, I guess, because both of those guys I have history with.
Okay.
I have been, let's see, going back. I met Laz when he was Agnostic Front was rehearsing in a building in Hoboken that he had a studio that he was working out of.
Okay.
And I lived with Jimmy Coletti, who was drumming for Agnostic Front. This is on Something's Gotta Go era.
Okay.
We lived together on 12th Street, and it was I think it was actually Billy Milano in one room, Laz in another room, and AF rehearsing in another room in his basement.
Oh, wow.
And so and me and Jimmy Coletti started a thing called Loved and Hated with Kabula on bass. So I found myself in there and met Lars then, and that's I'm terrible with years, but that's going to be 2000.
Okay.
And it's 2021, right?
Wow,
so I know Laz over 20 years just from the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry, I started in Human with Mike Scandato from an ad on a wall in Bleecker Bob's, I think.
Okay.
And this is 94, and Jerry was a kid in that scene of like 6 or 7 dudes I met right away in that, Brooklyn, Sheepshead, Bay Area, New York hardcore scene. So I know Jerry since he's like a kid.
Wow.
1994.
Okay. Damn.
You know what I mean? So they're just people that I've seen go from bands to producers to bigger band to bigger producer and make names for themselves. So working with those guys for me, it's just seeing a friend I've seen at shows through the decades. So it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Other than that, it's again, we just, we don't have any label or anything. There's no money except what comes out of all of our pockets, to get things done. So you have to get stuff done as cheaply as possible. And, guys that know what they're doing, you make that easy,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So really it's just like, we never get time to even think about how we're going to make it sound like that, or let's make it sound like this record. You get in, get your rig running. You cannot, there's no time for the luxury of stories or changing amps and you have to get a sound and you have to go. And it's like, is that sound right? But that's how shows are. So you're just relying on all the same stuff. It's the same thing,
Sure. Yeah. That's cool. Wow. Well, I mean, one of the things too, I like what you guys did with this record as well, is the remixes, especially for the song Raise a Glass. I mean, I think the remix, for both the songs on the record, I mean, it really blends, I think, everything together a bit better than it did on the EP from last year. I think it has a little bit of more of a low end to it in the mix, especially with the drums. And so, I really, like I said, I really think having those remixes on there I think they came out fantastic. Is there a reason why you guys wanted to remix those songs? I mean, did you maybe want to change a thing or two after you kind of had to release the EP and heard it, a few times, or?
To be honest, I only even hear the music on good speakers when we're in a studio.
Okay.
After that,
Wow.
everything
Okay.
I listen to is like on a, some
Headphones or
compromise.
something.
Exactly.
Sure.
So, and Dan listens in a car that has a real system all the time to everything.
Okay.
So I know that we're in there, that Dan is just like, I have this is whatever major changes that this, because he hears it in a realistic format way more than me.
Okay.
I know that if he says he has to remix it for whatever reason, then there has to be something wrong. Unless, of course, I heard it in my earbuds, which I would too. I'm just saying I don't get the good listening in. So we go in, and he does what he has to do as far as that, and then I can hear it on the studio, killer monitors, and then hear if there's anything that sounds fucked up or if it's perfect. So I know that if it sounds good in there with all that reference, and these two guys here, listen, Laz and Dan, or Jerry and Dan, and unless I hear something glaringly, wrong, I can hear why. So the reason why would be because Dan totally said we have to remix some stuff.
Okay.
Honestly.
Plain simple. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I can't even say, that really sounds terrible, because I don't listen to it on anything really good after we're out of the studio.
Okay. Makes sense.
I'm more concerned, to be honest with you, after something's down, it's not going to change anyhow, no matter what it's once it's done, it's out, right? So even if that mix sucked in your mind, it's already there for everybody to hear. So you can't change it. So I go to the band at that point, playing songs, playing live.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, I think they both really did those songs justice, not that like I said, not that I didn't love those songs, on the EP themselves, but I just think definitely the quality, the blend of, I think, everything just combined together really just gave it, a complete sound to me, which I think is really cool about, you guys doing that. Well, I know you guys, not only you have a lot going on, obviously, with the release of the EP that's coming up, but I know, I was talking to Dan last week. I interviewed him, and for what I've been told, you guys are obviously also now currently doing some pre-production, I think, for the first full length for the band, if I'm correct.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what we're doing right now.
And what he told me too was great. You are okay, and of course you guys got, a great surprise coming on the new the first full length is you got Danny Schuler from Biohazard playing on drums. Which is, it doesn't get any better than that behind the kit, that's for sure.
And you ain't kidding.
That's what he told me now. I was like, wow, man, you guys already had such a great unit, but adding him to the mix is just going to make you guys that much stronger, obviously. But so, yeah, I guess, tell us what you can about what, that.
Freezing up a little bit for me, Matt. I don't know if you hear me, but you stopped. Oh, I think
you there.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Right. Ooh, I don't tell that was bad. Okay.
Yeah, you just froze, but no.
I know.
I met Danny Schuler years ago playing at a festival in Europe when I was playing with Sub-Zero, and Jason was in the band, who plays bass for Kings Never Die. Jason was in Sub-Zero. Jason Kaufman was playing bass for Sub-Zero at the time, and I guess we're talking about a 99, 2000, played a festival with Biohazard in either France or Belgium, and they actually had they did the Cro-Mags cover, I think, Hard Times, and called Lou up from Sub-Zero to sing with them, which and it was just a cool thing to witness. So I had met Danny back then, but that's forever ago, and he's played a million shows since then. It was totally, Dan said, he knows him, of course, because they have a long history. Mucky Pup, I think, brought Biohazard to Europe for their first time. Sure. And then Doggy Dog had tours with Biohazard they played Dynamo together, all kind of crazy shit. So they're old friends. So Dan Nastasi said, I think I'm going to call Danny Schuler and see if he wants to do it. And I said, yeah, great. Sure. That'd be great. Of course, but good luck. I don't know him. I only met him once. You say, go ahead, call him up. And he said he sent him he wanted to hear the songs, and he sent him the songs, and he said he liked the songs. So,
Wow.
what do you guys got going on? And he said, well, we're about to do our the first full length, and send me some more of the stuff. So Dan sent him some more of the songs, wherever we had them, ones that were more along and recorded and finished, and other stuff that was riff form. And I guess he liked the stuff. It was just Dan and him communicating at that point because he's who knew him.
Mm-hmm.
So he called me back. He says he wants to jam. I was like,
wow,
great. So they started working on stuff immediately together, just them two, to keep things
nice.
clean.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the genesis of basically all the songs comes from Dan, pretty much 90%. At this point, everybody has stuff to put in and changes stuff, but the genesis of everything, just about everything, is Dan.
Okay.
And so him just playing directly with Danny Schuler, was easier for them to start and get a basis going, and then Dan would just send stuff within hours of them rehearsing, and Dan also figured out how to edit stuff a little bit, so he could take rehearsal live jams and actually cut them and paste them to where they sound terrible, but I could get
the idea of the song and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Changing lengths of parts and sequencing and all that. And they started
Sure.
ripping immediately. And what can I say? Schuler's a beast and everybody knows it,
Yeah.
fucking legend. And it's been, just playing we go in and we play and we work on stuff and we make things better and we're having a blast just doing that. So he just said, I'll help you make the record. He said, awesome.
That's
Simple
great,
as that.
man. Wow. That's I can't wait to hear that, man. That's going to be amazing. No doubt. Yeah. Well, let's talk, just a little bit about how you and Dan, started the band. I mean, it sounds like, from what I read and been told it was really just a simple, what's going on, how you been? And the next thing you know, now you guys got Kings Never Die together. And what I find interesting is that, and correct me, obviously, if I'm wrong, but I think it's the first time that the both of you have actually started your own band in quite some time. I mean, obviously, you've, of course, been playing with so many great, legendary New York hardcore bands and figures. I mean, Murphy's Law, Sub-Zero, Sheer Terror, Vinny Stigma. I mean, you can, and we're just getting started with that. I know you've got such an amazing resume, but being that yeah, well, true. I guess age does give you those opportunities, but I mean, being that you are, I mean, I know you just mentioned that Dan, it's mostly Dan that does a lot of, most of the, I guess 90% of the heavy lifting here with the music, at least with the writing. I mean, given the fact that, I guess over the course of your career, I mean, and like I said, you've joined and been involved with so many of those bands. Are you enjoying maybe having more of a leadership role, now that since you guys started the band, than what you were used to when you would just come in and just, fill in or play, for Murphy's Law and Stigma? I mean, is it something that, that you're, liking more so, or just at least just a change is something a little bit different than what you used to been doing now, being sort of a leader and one of the songwriters in the band? Is that really something that you really starting to enjoy more and more?
It's a big change. They're both cool, but yes, I know what you're getting at, and I'm going to say yes because to have more control and to start something, I mean, it's a huge headache and totally different bullshit, but when this band came about because I was looking to start something, whatever.
Okay.
I'm definitely like at a spot where I'm like, Stigma is a killer to be involved in because it's not busy.
Mm-hmm.
Even when before the pandemic, Agnostic Front is full time, so Stigma only ever plays a little bit. So that's it's just easy to have in your back pocket. You get a few cool shows a year. We go in and play with the songs the night before and go play a show and see you in 3 months or see you at shows, so that's easy. But this was me looking for a long time for something to, trying to put something together. Me and Jason, again, the bass player, are friends for years and played together in Sub-Zero and Son of Skam. And we always liked the way each other played and liked a lot of the same records and that whole thing. He's a huge Crumbsuckers fan, Ludacris, as am I.
Awesome.
And we gelled like that on that stuff forever. So we were like always looking to fit a situation, something like, let's do something new. And I ran into Laz Pena in the local shop, right? because he lives blocks away from me. And what's up? How you been? This and that. And he said, Leeway is rehearsing out of my space right now. I know you're a Leeway. I said, oh my, I can't believe it, Leeway. And Dan Nastasi's playing. I was like, yeah, that's cool. I know, of course I knew Dan through Sean Kilkenny from Doggy Dog and Monkey Pup, who was playing in a version of Murphy's Law with me 10 years earlier.
Okay.
So I called Dan and I called him up and said, hey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you in a while. How is Leeway going? Because Leeway's, one of both of our favorite bands, legends.
Sure. Absolutely.
And he was like, cool. I wrote a song, he's like, I wrote a song that's going to be a new Leeway single. And that's obviously something, it was like, wow, that's hard to do, and to try to write for a standard as good as that, a legendary, 2 records, more than 2 records.
Sure.
And he said it was good that he had, it was going good, and he wrote this cool song, and the shows were good. But he told me that he had a lot of ideas were coming, and a lot of riffs were coming, a lot of music was just coming out of him, and they weren't, it's really hard to do something to another standard like a Leeway. So he's writing this stuff, and it just wasn't fitting in any, in his mind for that band. So he couldn't really do anything with it. So I called him up, like I said, I called him up out of the blue and said, how's it going? How you doing? And he said, you know what? I have a whole bunch of songs that just like in the pursuit of doing the new Leeway song, just riffing and writing songs have been just coming out like really simple. It's easy. And he said, if you want it, would you be into hearing them? And I was like, dude, yeah, like come over to the house. And he came over to the house, and we sit in front of amplifiers and plugged in quiet. And he said, check this riff out. And we'd known each other a long time. We never actually sat and played together. It just never came up.
Okay.
And he had a bunch of stuff. And he's from Leeway, Crumbsuckers, Ludacris, Metallica, Cro-Mags, all that before that. So we play the same way in a way. We're all, so we started to riff together super easy. And when somebody's got a bunch of cool ideas, it was clear what to do. So we just started getting together, like twice a week and hashing them out right away.
Awesome.
So
yeah,
that's what you want. If you start a new band, when there's ideas, and instead of standing around looking at each other, what do you want to play?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
We knew that, like, he there was a place to go. He had these ideas that weren't for that, and he didn't want to stay. He couldn't stay with their schedule, like touring and stuff like that, and traveling as much as they wanted to, because he was coaching and he has a company, So for us to start sitting around the living room and jamming and writing songs was easy to do. So that's exactly what we did,
Awesome, man. Yeah. Well, it is interesting. How bands sometimes get together. It's just, it almost sounds like it was sort of fate for you guys to be together, because it wasn't, obviously like it was a pre-planned thing. But I'm glad you guys did, man, because like I said, the music that you guys have been pumping out, it's been awesome. You just brought up actually, a couple of names that you brought up, Crumbsuckers and Ludacris. And one of the things when I think of those bands, even Murphy's Law, even early Murphy's Law is, is something that you guys bring to the table that you don't find too much, you don't find too often in hardcore bands, is the lead guitars, which to me, I always love lead guitar in pretty much everything, because I just always feel like they make the songs more complete. And, like I said, obviously historically New York hardcore, I mean, especially east in the 90s, I should say, in the 80s, there were a lot of leads, obviously with the crossover thrash stuff, but really in the 90s, lead guitars were kind of always phased out. I know a lot of it has to do, obviously, because of the punk rock nature, obviously, of hardcore. And, punk historically was known for no leads or very little to no leads. And like I said, I always love it, maybe just because I also love metal. I love 70s hard rock. But like I said, to me, it just makes it more complete. So for you, I mean, in terms of your influences, incorporating these leads, into the music. I mean, like I said, obviously you've played with Murphy's Law, and they always had, Todd Youth, and another guy who I think is just one of the best that sometimes people don't talk enough about. Is that where you sort of derived your style kind of from, with your being a lead guitarist in that scene? Is it from those early, late 80s, thrash crossover bands like the Crumbsuckers and Leeways and so forth?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Murphy's Law. I've seen Murphy's Law more than any other band before I was ever in the band.
Okay.
Todd I mean, forget it. OG definition.
Yeah.
Just his style, and that band just set me on the rear because I heard the record at one point and it sounded funny and jokey and not heavy like a lot of things at the time, the debut record I'm talking about. And then I saw them and they were loud as fuck and in your face and insane. And it was wild to me to see that together. I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to be a hokey joke, and they were not, right? So Murphy's Law is an absolutely huge influence. Todd, but even other guitar players, but Todd, of course. Yeah, you know what? I'm brain farting on the question.
No, I'm just saying, is that really kind of how you got, were you very influenced by that in terms of your
influences?
Yeah.
Well, like you, although I'm probably a little older than you, I grew up with an older brother and sister in the 70s. So, I grew up with tons of really good rock and roll, guitar oriented. My brother liked like Lynyrd Skynyrd and the Allman Brothers and the Outlaws and Pink Floyd and
Outlaws. I haven't heard that band name in a while.
Yeah. I've seen the Outlaws.
Love that. Oh, wow. Nice.
3 triple guitar, Florida Axe Attack, 3 lead guitar players.
Yeah. Greengrass and High Tides. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Awesome.
And then my sister liked Alice Cooper and the Ramones and Deep Purple and tons Kiss, which blew my mind. So I had all that from being a kid, and then through the 70s, and I got into like, I like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and of course Queen and anything with big guitar riffs and big drum, anything like that. James Gang and Joe Walsh and ZZ Top is my favorite band on the planet.
Awesome.
And then you get a little older, and I got into I stumbled upon Iron Maiden, and that whole Judas Priest went that way, and that's when I started. Around that time, my brother had an acoustic guitar, but around that time was when your friends start playing, and I'd get a hold of somebody's guitar in a bedroom for a minute, and make some noise and think, man, I got to get a guitar. So all that, just going through all that and into metal, and then Metallica and the whole thrash scene. When Metallica was, I remember when Cliff died, I was in my senior year of high school. So I was target audience, complete Metallica from the start, not from the start. I didn't really hear from them, Kill 'Em All. I had Ride Lightning on. So yeah, all of that is lead guitar stuff, and then, I always looked up to the lead guitar. Ted Nugent, politics aside, was just an unbelievable, ripping, blistering guitar player. Anything with any kind of lead crazy guitar. So the leads make sense to me. But there's Fear and Dead Kennedys, and they're loaded with leads, and that's early as it gets. Anything, Meatmen is maybe like a bit of a Murphy's Law precursor or whatever. But leads, but you know what? I've played in bands where leads are less important and stuff, and that's cool if it fits, But I when I heard the Crumbsuckers and Ludacris with these guys that were just blistering, giving any thrash a run for its money. That's just super, I wanted to. Yeah, that sounds cool to me. The way they played. Love those guys. Just that insanely blistering guitar in and amongst New York hardcore is just, I can't even. I fake that. I just fake it.
Yeah, I mean, those records just stand the test of time, and they never get old.
But also, sorry to cut you off, Matt. But then if you think about the '90s, right? There's also Quicksand, who had much more atmospheric leads or whatever, but still a burning ass killer lead.
Sure, yeah.
And then there's Into Another, who has the guy who's like a guitar virtuoso, full of leads, and they were killing the '90s.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe that's sort of I know that was more of the alternative, post-hardcore stuff. But yeah, you're right. I mean, which is why I think a lot of those bands maybe went a different direction after sort of a lot of the beatdown, hardcore in the '90s, just because, I'm not saying it gets old, but I think, you're limited of what you can obviously experiment with if you're in that kind of a. I mean, yeah, Biohazard obviously had leads too. I mean, but what happened, I think, is a lot of those bands. Then, if you had a lead guitar, a lot of the hardcore, fans or people would be like, well, you're more of a metal band because you got leads. It's sort of like you get. I mean, like Biohazard is a great example. I mean, they kind of got. You talk to some people about Biohazard, they don't really consider them, a hardcore band, but to me, they are. I mean, they came up in that. Sure, eventually they sort of phased out, and once they signed to a major label, they kind of went their own way and did something different. But to me, they're always been a hardcore band. Even those first couple albums, you can't beat them. They're fantastic. But yeah, I mean, speaking of, I want to bring up some albums you've been involved with some, I guess some other projects over the years, albums that I loved. I just wanted to ask you about. I've always been interested in. You mentioned one of your first bands you started, Inhuman. Evolver, which came out there in the late 90s. Love that record. And what's great was, that I never realized, but I found out that record was produced by Bumblefoot, Ron Tull. Correct. Yeah. How did, I mean, I was obviously, I guess, before he, is the guy he is now and all, Guns N' Roses and Sons of Apollo and everything. But I mean, how did you guys, how did you want to hook it up with him to produce that? I mean, about 97 or so that came out, right? I believe. Yeah.
I can't remember the years I told you, but somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Well, I did a demo and like a 7-inch in that record. And yeah, it was it was his basement. Okay. I mean, his parents' basement at some little house in Brooklyn. And those guys, everybody was from Brooklyn. I was in Manhattan, going to school from Pennsylvania. I didn't know anybody. I just went to everything. And my roommate brought a flyer home that said, hardcore band looking for guitar player. And that was Mike Scandato.
Okay. Wow.
So I'm coming out there on the train for everything, rehearsals and whatever we would do, but I don't know anybody. So that's, I got to know all those. So all those cats must have known Ron he was just the guy that was doing demos around the way.
Wow. Okay.
But then when it was funny because, first of all, he was really super efficient and super good, even though it was this little random basement, everything was perfect. There wasn't a thing out of place on the floor. There was no,
so professional, huh? Yeah.
It was like it was a tiny basement in his parents' home, whatever, but clearly the dude knew what he was doing, and then he would pick up a guitar every now and then and you'd be like, what? Holy shit. Like he's a virtuoso.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And then a few years later, I remember hearing about this guy joining Guns N' Roses. Remember that dude? I was like, what?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
New York, man. There's such a crazy crossroads.
It is. That's definitely New York for you. Yeah.
Ron Rosenthal.
Yeah.
That's Ron Thal, and I don't know where Bumblefoot came out, but he's a super nice dude, and it was cool.
Yeah. That's an awesome experience, man. No doubt. The other record, I never knew you played on was the Sworn Enemy EP, Negative Outlook. That was on Stillborn. You were part of that, correct? Were you part of that? You weren't, because you get credit. So you got credit on it somewhere on the internet. I'll just let you know that.
Really?
Yeah, it says it, but I guess that's a mistake. All right, well, we'll pass over that one then. Yeah, and of course,
What is it? Sworn Enemy?
Yeah, their EP that was on Stillborn, Negative Outlook.
Oh man, so it has to be a mistake.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish,
because that came up and I was like, I didn't know this, man, because I'm a big fan of that band. And I would have known it, but
that one.
Okay. Well, let's skip over that one. And of course, one of the other albums I always loved, man, just as a youngster, it was Son of Skam, the 5-Borough Manhunt EP. I know you are on that one. How did you guys ever come up with that project? Put that together, man. That thing still pops up in my, I still have it on my phone. It pops up, every probably month or so. No Escape or Monkeys or something comes up, man. But how did that come together, that whole project?
That was I knew Lou from Sub-Zero from playing with him in Human.
Okay.
We played shows together. We played Castle Heights together.
Oh wow, Castle Heights, man.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Oof. And I got along with Lou from whenever I met him, and Richie. So we were friends, so anytime we would play with Sub-Zero, it'd be like, oh, cool, we're going to see these guys tonight, and have a great time at a bar or whatever. So I knew Lou. And I guess it had come, I didn't know Richie Skam, but I'd seen him, you see characters around at the time, and I guess he was going to get something together. Trying to figure out how to explain it. He wanted to get a band together, and I guess I don't know how he approached Lou or whatever. There was some crazy homemade demos and stuff with some of Skam before I became involved, but I didn't know any of those other guys. I knew who all of them were, Freddie, you know, and all these guys. I've seen them around the scene, of course, but didn't talk to any of them except for Lou. So when they wanted to get something together, it was kind of like, in a way, it was like Freddie and Ezek were kind of showing Richie Skam, I think, like, you know, get a band together because you could travel and you could do cool shit. You know what I mean? Like if you channel that crazy energy and those ideas and get some guys and start playing in a band, you know, and that's exactly what he did. And so Lou said, I gotta, this guy can play. He's going to play what you like, you know, like he plays heavy riffs and he's going to work out. And that just met Richie Skam at the Wetlands one time, you know, and just like, so you play guitar, you know, that kind of thing. I'm like, yep. So just showed up and started jamming, and Lou knew that I could play like that. Simple as that. That's my whole involvement. That's where Larry the Hunter comes from too. That's a Lou nickname.
Okay.
So yeah, we started jamming on that. They had some rough, crazy ideas, and it was at the time it was me and Jim Eaton from Sub-Zero on drums, and we were already used to playing together, and he was skilled. So when they had like these really raw whatever ideas, we had a guitar and could just eat like this, you know, whatever, like this, more like this, and stuff shaped up right away. They had a bunch of songs, and that was another one. There was energy. There was a bunch of ideas and a bunch of energy. So getting the songs together, like with those guys, kind of fell into place pretty quick.
Okay.
And that's it. Simple as that. It's more or less Sub-Zero guys and me, and the bass player is the guy that ended up playing in Sub-Zero later, this guy Jason, who's now playing in Kings Never Die with us, but he played in Son of Skam as well, because again he was in that heavier tight style, you know. Yeah, so that's how that involvement happened. Crazy band.
Yeah, that was listen to that record. It just sounds like you guys had a blast making that thing in the studio or something, man. It just has that, you know, real fun vibe to it. Yeah, I would just always dug. I remember the first time you hear it, I didn't even hear it. You know, I had just moved from at that point from New York out here to the West Coast, and I remember just finding it on, like, I think it was like the Century Media website or something, and I was like, "What is this?" And I saw these names attached to it, obviously Lou and Freddie and everything, and yeah, man, I just I was a bit bummed that you guys never really did much after that, but you know, I think you know, I know there was a couple other songs that was put out on a record, but you know, I always thought that was a cool band. You know, definitely for that time, especially, it was a really a fun band.
You know, that, I mean, that's great. If you want, I mean, I could tell you, if you want to hear stories more about it or whatever, I could tell you, or if you want to move on, you know, let me
sure,
know.
go ahead. Well, you can share some stories. Yeah,
you know, I agree that should have went further. Richie Skam would attest to basically everything I had to say about this or whatever, but we had like that kind of an early implosion due to, I don't know, inexperience or just like false beliefs and something else was going to happen. Like classic situation of, we had a bunch of ideas and a bunch of energy right away and interest right away. Century Media was totally interested right away. And they in a way, we you know, some of the people in the band kind of got a little more into the idea that it was just going to happen now. And didn't realize it was time to roll your sleeves up and do the boring shit and get to work. And like I've said this to Richie, you know, Richie knows, and I'm not just blaming Richie Skam for sure, because he's also the genesis of the whole idea. The whole energy is him. Without him, there is none.
True.
But he knows, and we talked about it before, that at the time it was like a little bit, in a weird way, we recorded a demo, and Century Media said, we'll put the demo out right away. Like, just, you know, give it to us, and it's already a record, right?
Yeah.
Some of this is like the first time, you know, a demo. You know, you don't usually get like a signed record out in Europe in a couple of months from doing a demo. And he even, it was Chris from Rikers, Chris Luff from Rikers, bass player Rikers, was doing AR, I guess, for Century Media, and loved and signed Sub-Zero. And I guess Lou, maybe he got wind of this project through Lou and heard it and was like, I want it, you know. At the time, I guess, you know, I guess you're talking about 98, 99. This sort of New York hardcore meets rap was super appealing in Europe.
Sure, you had Scarhead was blowing up and all that stuff. Yeah,
right. But it's still kind of a little bit on the early, side of it. So
sure, yeah.
So he knew that it was going to get interest. So they flew us over to play one show. They flew us over to jump on the Doorfest with Agnostic Front and Earth Crisis and the Cro-Mags and Stigmata. I mean, Motorhead played earlier in the day. Destiny's Child played that festival early in the day. Right? So they yeah, they flew us over. We have a demo. They fly us over to play one gig, and really the idea was they were kind of saying, like, if you guys get that record together, look at what you can get. Like, look at what we can do for you if you just deliver that record now. And what happened was people kind of were like, all right, we made it. We're done. And we never got together to make the record. It was, people just got, I guess, I don't know, everybody kind of went crazy and couldn't do the work that needed to be done at that point, because that's a lot of work.
Sure. Yeah.
Right now we're doing this we're working on putting songs together for Kings Never Die. And Dan has been every other day with two Dans together, every other day right now for like the last 2 weeks. You think about that. That's a lot of hours.
It's a lot.
Especially for 50-year-old men with families and jobs.
Absolutely.
But if that doesn't get done, then it doesn't get done.
Yeah.
And back then, this was way younger. Well, not real young, but everybody's really, this is like, again, 98, 99. So you're talking about, whatever, well over 20 years ago. And they were crazy. Everybody was crazy, which really transmitted to the grooves of the record. You can hear the crazy.
Oh yeah, you can, man. Yeah.
That's a weird. I get asked about that band. That's one of the bands I'm surprised that I get asked about the farthest out. Like,
really?
Yeah. And nobody says anything about it here except like a joke once in a while, this and that. And no, just not a joke, but everybody knows everybody here. But I've had, I was in Serbia with Murphy's Law, Serbia. And I was wearing a Son of Skam shirt, and sure, some kid was like, dude, wanted to buy it off me. And I was like, it's the only one I got.
Wow, Serbia, how about that?
And I was like, how do you even know? This is a bunch of years later,
Yeah.
And they were like, are you kidding me? That fucking record is killer. And I'm always like, wow. Now, no disrespect. I like it, and I loved it when we were doing it. I think it has crazy.
Well, you said it's a demo. I mean, right?
It was a demo.
Yeah.
We ran in there, plugged in. There was no like getting cool sounds or anything. It was like trying to get stuff down for a few $100s that we could scrape together. So, it never, it never turned over and started running. Simple as that. A few years later, I guess they did some stuff together, but to be honest, I didn't have the time. I think I might have been playing in Murphy's Law or something at the time, and honestly couldn't afford to do, a little bit of shows here and there. So I can't really speak about, what they did later or what they released. Richie Skam is a creative groundswell though, and has tons of ideas and always did and always does. And he figures out a way to hustle and get himself out there and get stuff done. And that's why there was later iterations of music and stuff, but the band itself on the first thing was like that one shot, and that's that that Vibro Manhunt EP.
Sure. Yeah.
It's too bad. It would have been fun for that to go further,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just between obviously like Scarhead and the Son of Skam, I mean, I was just a big fan of that whole, because like you said, it was just a crazy. I mean, you said you could hear it on the record just with the vocals and everything. It's just like, man, this is wild, man. It was
crazy.
It had a spirit to it. It really had like a real, like, it pumped you up. It made you laugh. There was a lot of just like you said, out of a demo, just a 4 or 5 song demo. It really, it hit people, obviously, if they're still talking to me. You're about to hear 20 years later, Yeah.
Especially for only ever playing, I don't know. I think we only played like 5 or 6 shows.
Wow.
Total.
That's it, huh?
I can't think of anything more than that. Yeah, I think we played Lemoore. We played someplace in Connecticut once. We played a CB's once. We played a killer night at the Wetlands one time. That barricade flew. Just an unbelievable set. That was like our one really good show. And then we played Belgium, and then that was kind of it.
That was it, huh?
Yeah. So
yeah.
What came of that was me and Richie Kennan from Sub-Zero, who was the main guitar player in Sub-Zero, and Lou from Sub-Zero. We were still we enjoyed playing together. And because Son of Skam fell apart, I think I said, why don't you guys do Sub-Zero? Why don't we do Sub-Zero again? Why not? And so we started doing that again, because they told me they'd always wanted a second guitarist, but always had trouble finding one that fit or whatever. Saab played second guitar for a while, way before me.
Okay.
But since we were already doing Son of Skam and playing together, it was the same drummer, the same two guitar players, the same bass player now, and Lou. So, we're like, well, if Son of Skam isn't going to continue, let's do Sub-Zero. So then we did I got back to Europe with them right after that for like a summer run with a bunch of different bands. And and that lasted a while. And then Sub-Zero, let me think. I get confused because it's, like I said, I'm old. It'd be come and go. That band would get busy and then not busy and stuff, just through, trying to keep paying bills and life, And in that meantime, that's where Loved and Hated came about with Jimmy Coletti, and that he had a ton of ideas. Same thing. He had a bunch of songs that weren't working for AF, because he had written a ton of AF material around that time, and said, "What do you think? You want to do it?" So we started doing that, and whatever. Next, and at that point when I was playing with him, Murphy's Law needed a guy, and the timing was just right. I could do it, and so that's why I started playing for Murphy's Law. So that's why I wasn't in Sub-Zero even later. It's hard to be in more than one band, as you can imagine. I know that's
sure,
but
yeah.
Even if they're two that you want to be in, sometimes you have to make a cut because there's only so much time in the day.
Sure. No, I totally understand that. I mean,
I wanted to tour really bad. I wanted to travel and tour bad. That was something I'd always wanted to do. And the Murphy's Law had we did a 6.5 week tour right away.
Oh wow, you can't beat that. Then
I really wanted to go and do that.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
No, it makes sense, man. Absolutely. Well, I did. I was watching that little interview you did with Drew Stone for the New York Hardcore Chronicles, and you came up with a really you said something really important. I think when that's that question that comes up all the time: is hardcore dead? It's like that was a Rock Dead thing. I mean, it's kind of I just think it's a silly question because it's definitely not. But you pointed out that hardcore it's a genre that wound up becoming a lifestyle. So it's like, what I mean, which I thought was a great, it's a great line you said, obviously, and something I never really even thought about. It's like, yeah, that's totally true. I mean, and I guess my question is, in your opinion, I mean, how's the life, obviously we know hardcore music in the scene, it's not dead, and, it never will be. But in your opinion, how's the lifestyle been, not dead, or I would say diminished? I don't know what really the right word is, but I mean, it's obviously probably a lot less today, than it was 20 years ago. And I think not because people have lost interest in it. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think maybe, back then hardcore obviously had a bit more of a commercial appeal, and not really just so much more commercial. A lot of it was you had a lot of bigger and good size, independent labels like Roadrunner, like Century Media, Victory Records. I mean, they all fueled the genre, in the 90s and later on. City kids too, they were able to afford, I mean, just talking about New York City, they were able to afford an apartment, in a rehearsal space with a couple of friends. You can work a part-time job, you can go on your tours, you can sell enough merch, all that stuff to survive off of. Where nowadays, I mean, you paid half a cent for a song that's played, streamed. Not that you made a lot of money back then, but you obviously made enough to at least give you something to go off of where you could survive, and I just feel like today it's just, a lot of these, these kids, these younger kids who want to play and be in that lifestyle, say in and around a New York City. I mean, they have to move, upstate or central Jersey or somewhere just to probably be able to do that as a youngster, So, I mean, do you think, in your opinion, is that a correct, sort of statement? I mean, obviously it's not dead, but do you think just the lifestyle maybe isn't as big as it once was because of all these roadblocks that makes it, a lot of times hard to live that hardcore lifestyle?
Man, I'm not sure even how to answer that. I think I don't know. Life is hard, man. You got
it is.
You know what
Sure.
I mean? What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know anything. I don't know how to say it. I don't know anything else but that. I think it's like, I don't know, man. I really don't know how to say it. I can't imagine. I think you're either in or out. I mean, everything comes in waves. I don't know. I don't believe. I never made any money from music, even when I was managed and paid.
Sure. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. At the small times during my career, so to speak, that I was even managed and paid. It's always been a deficit to play music and stuff, but it's because it's all you do it. You do this long because it's all you know how to do. I don't know any better.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't think about like, well, I can't do this anymore because it's just in me,
It's just ingrained in you. Yeah. Well, I mean, like for instance, you guys are doing, the A7 Back to New York Hardcore Roots. You're on that compilation. You guys have played A7 a few times, and I think it's great what Drew Stone's doing with all that. I mean, just really trying to, I guess, give a lot of the younger generation of hardcore fans and musicians sort of maybe sort of a overview of what it was at one point, and hopefully what it could continue to be, I mean, as the generations and as these kids get older and as, as the years go on. So, I mean, I guess as a guy too, like yourself, you grew up, going to old, New York hardcore shows and, you ingrained into the scene, like you said, and into the whole lifestyle. I mean, do you feel like, I guess maybe as a veteran in the scene, do you feel like you have, I would say this, not necessarily a responsibility, but sort of you owe it to say, the founders of hardcore to continue to do like, the A7 shows and to be on these comps with some of these younger bands to kind of give them a boost, because it is tough for, I think, younger hardcore bands. If it's just a bunch of them with, brand new musicians, no one really knows who they are. If they're just sort of on their own trying to put out compilations or their own music or trying to get a foot in the door, it's just so much more harder now than it was, obviously, than when you were getting your feet wet in the scene. But you feel like you have, I don't know, I guess not responsibility, but you want to do that. You want to do that, for a lot of these younger musicians and fans of hardcore.
I mean, I don't think hardcore is going anywhere. It's too much fun.
It is. No, you're right.
There's always going to be some kid somewhere in a garage. I always think of it as like this thing that came out of the cities in like a ripple effect, like water. It's DC and New York and LA and to Boston, a certain extent Chicago and Boston and whatever. And then it did this through the years,
Yeah,
really all over the world.
All the world, sure.
Exactly. But so it doesn't go away where it started in those epicenters, but it goes down. But I don't know. I don't know if it's any easier. It was easier. I don't think it was easier then and is not. I think it's like if you have the drive to get in the garage, you figure out new ways to put, I think bands before that, when they started seeing like, bands in the 50s, when they started seeing cassettes, probably said, what the fuck what are those fucking things? Like, cassettes. We're already making records. Now they got a new machine. It's the same shit.
That's same. Yeah.
Kids are going to keep playing and coming up with crazy music, whatever it is, street music in some form, whether, whatever, but hardcore is not going to go away. And who cares if somebody says it goes away or whatever? You're going to still go to shows. I'm going to shows.
Sure. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't, there's always somebody trying to put some stupid label on shit like this and that. It was the time when it was good. It doesn't, you're either doing it or you're not. Whatever that is.
Sure. Yeah.
So
makes sense.
I don't know. I think there's going to be shows because they're fun, Simple as that.
Simple as that. Sure. No, I got you, man. I agree. I mean, like you said, one thing about the music and just going to shows, it is fun. It doesn't, I think even though lyrically, if you listen back to some of those old hardcore records, and obviously they're written by kids in their teens and early 20s, maybe lyrically you don't relate to them as much anymore because you are older, but it doesn't lose the fun of it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, now
to me,
some
it's
records
just,
are written by guys in their 50s.
Well, yeah, like Kings Never Die, right? Yeah,
Yeah, like Agnostic Front, like Silvertune, like it's I think when you were younger, you didn't think that was possible.
True. Yeah.
But
yeah,
at some point, I remember being in this bar in the city one time, years and years and years ago, with Paris Mayhew from the Cro-Mags, and I think he was turning like 30. And I remember thinking, fuck, 30. Jesus. I didn't know you could like when I was probably, I don't know how much younger I am than him, only like 4 or 5 years or something, But I remember thinking 30. I didn't think he could be 30. And then Vinny Stigma came in, and I remember everybody was saying like Vinny's 40 or something now. And I said, wow, holy shit.
Yeah.
He just turned 65.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's it changed. That's why I say it changed. The old heads, a lot of the old heads will say, well, that scene is dead or whatever, but it did. That scene did die, but it changed from a scene to a lifestyle.
True. Yeah.
And that's what people that are into the lifestyle, like all those cats I just mentioned, they don't think about, oh, it was harder then, or it's going to be better. You're in it.
You just do it.
You stay or not, if if you need it to be perfect times to stay in it, fuck you,
Yeah.
You got to stay with it when when your girl's telling you, I don't like hardcore. Well, fuck you. I got to find another girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah. It makes
like, I don't think I owe it. Like what you're saying, not that I owe it, but I mean like that I think about the younger. I just do that naturally because all the time when I was younger, there was somebody always would let you step up that were older dudes and get on a show or whatever. So I don't think that I have to do that. You just do that. That's what shows are.
That's what it's all about.
Somebody that's headlining, that's killer, and then there's the mid-level guys, and then there's the guys that are trying to get on badly,
Sure, yeah.
So it keeps going, I mean, it would be nice to, think that it's gonna, like, with pandemic and all this bullshit now, that it's gonna, be able to fill the Ritz again 2 nights in a row for whoever plays, pretty soon again. But I guess time, it's just time.
Sure, yeah.
It's got to come back. It can't. This, can't kill fucking rock and roll.
No, you can't. Yeah, rock and roll. Yeah, it's trying times, but it definitely will survive, and not just survive, it'll thrive. It probably even more so. I think after this.
Yeah, we're gonna need. Everybody's gonna need it like extra. Absolutely. There's gonna be some kind of explosion that comes from it of crazy bands or a new thing or whatever. Because once this gets done, people are gonna think back like, holy cow, like, man, we had it so good. We gotta celebrate,
Sure. Yeah. No, absolutely, man. Well, Larry, man, we're gonna get ready to wrap it up, man. It's going on an hour. It's been great talking to you, man. Why don't you go ahead and just throw out, I guess, some of the plugs you can for Kings Never Die, where people could check out the music and maybe buy some merch and the new record that comes out at the end of the month.
Right on, man. This is definitely Dan's department. I know he probably laid everything out perfectly the other night, so I'll be paling in comparison. But definitely check out Upstate Records. Add Upstate Records on Instagram. Anything I say is going to be easy to find. We're Kings Never Die official. I'm Larry _the_Hunter on Instagram. Yeah, that's really it. You'll find us on Facebook, on Instagram, Kings Never Die official. The record's coming out Friday, which I'm psyched to put another thing out in video. I always even forget it's a video, but it's video too. I am so amped about working on these tunes with Danny and Danny. I don't want to say too much and sound corny, but you just wouldn't believe what's going on in the room right now. Like when Schuler came over and started sinking into this stuff, everybody's on another level.
Sure.
So right now, that's what I'm plugging. Keep your ear to the ground to hear that record coming out. But Friday, man, check it out. Upstate Records, Kings Never Die official. Yeah, man, that'll do it.
Awesome, man. Well, like I said, I look forward to hearing all the the new music. And like I said, I've already heard the EP. Thanks to Mario at Upstate.
Right.
It sounds fantastic, and yeah, man. And I obviously can't wait to see you guys, back on the road, hopefully sooner than later. And yeah, just keep doing what you guys are doing, man. It's needed, and it's everyone I talk to loves it. So
you as well, man. The same thing. This is, I mean, this is a great thing that we've learned from this pandemic. All this kind of stuff, virtual shit, podcasts. It's so important. It works. It's enjoyable. Now we have more of that to the scene, which doesn't hurt and can stay when it gets back to normal.
Well, no, you're right. That's one thing that, with the pandemic, I mean, people, where are you going to go to get that? And then there has been, like I said, a lot of start podcasts, video casts, all these things. Yeah, I agree, man. It's.
I think the scene has gotten a little more international and bigger because of this, in a way, because of communication had to leave the show.
That's a good point.
If you're going to keep up with everything and figure out what's going on, and you're not going to go to the show, what do you got to do? You got to get on stuff. People didn't just stop.
Sure. Yeah.
They all went to this.
Yeah. You're right.
So,
yeah. Good point. Yeah. Absolutely.
Hardcore
awesome. Yeah, it sure does, man. All right, Larry. Thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. And you have a good one, bud. Take care.
Thank you, Matt. Nice meeting you.
All right. Nice to meet you too, bud. Take care.
Brother. Anytime.
See you.
Everybody, another great interview right here on Aftershocks TV. And before we go, just want to remind you one more time, make sure you get over and subscribe to the CMS Podcast Network, cmspn.com. You can watch, you can listen, you can subscribe to everything that we do. Not only us, but the Classic Metal Shows, Shockwave Skull Sessions, Talk to Me. It's all there, one site. Get 4 great shows. Never have to do anything again but be entertained. So check it out, cmspn.com, cmspn.com, cmspn.com. Until next time, folks.